Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tessa Talks. What's going on, everyone? How you been? What's tea? What's been going on this last week? Let's get right into the introduction. Please don't forget to share, like it up, leave a comment. Don't forget we're a small podcast here, just trying to grow. So anything and everything counts. This week we're going to be talking about LGBT women and non-LGBT or ex-LGBT women. And we're going to be having more of a commentary kind of, talk today. I think I'm going to start doing these more just because, I'm more of a, call and response type of individual and talker and things like that. And so, plus, these have been popping up on my For You page. And so, I've been wanting to say something. So, we're going to say something. So, let's go ahead and jump. Okay, hey everyone, welcome back to another episode again. A quick little mental check-in for this week, right? This week has been a heavy one for me. Don't forget to let me know how y'all's has been down in the comments too. I like to, start getting more of a flow and getting to know who's watching my videos and things like that. Don't be afraid to comment, like things like that. I just want to see who's all watching. But back to what I was saying. This week has been a little bit more of a emotional pull. I don't know what has been pulling on my energy. I don't know. I got like really depressed and upset and angry this week out of nowhere. Don't know why. Don't know what could have possibly have brought this about. So I've been just kind of staying to myself, really going to work. School started back up this week. We had like a little week break. And so I've just been really focused in getting back into that, getting into what this course is more about, getting more used to using my camera and understanding the different tricks and tips and things that I can use it for and what things of that nature. So it's just been a really big emotional pull for me this week. 4th of July is this weekend, was depending on when you watch this, was Friday, it's Saturday. So what did y'all do? What are y'all gonna do for this weekend? What have y'all did for 4th of July? And I'm not even gonna lie to you, if you're black and you went and bought fireworks for 4th of July, I'm gonna look at you kind of crazy, because what are we doing? Because not, like I said in the Juneteenth video, I ain't see nor hear nor smell not one firework. Just saying. And they're legal all year round here in DC. Just saying. But let's go ahead and start with this video. Let's wrap it up. Wrap the little mental health check-in, because that was with me going on. Okay, I'm getting back. It's a little bit of a journey sometimes for me, because the bounce back is trauma. But let's get into this video. Right, this video is going to be more of like the end of LGBT Pride Month and things like that. But this is kind of my like gist of my channel. So all year round, we're going to be talking about LGBT shit. All year round, specifically trans, black and trans, a lot. Y'all are probably going to get sick and tired of me talking about it, but hey, until we get change, that's what we're going to be doing. But in this particular episode, it's more so women centered, right? This is not really for the men. I mean, this will be great for the men to listen in on, but this is not really for y'all, right? This is more of the women and I would say feminine presenting individuals, right? Um, Especially talking for like non-binaries. There, by watching this, there's a non-binary individual in this video, so it is the channel Dr. Daf, yeah, Dr. Daf Show, DAF, right? Daf, like Daft Punk. I don't know. I don't know if y'all caught that, like I caught that. But yeah, Dr. Dev Show, and it's the series The Bridge, right? So it's going to be the episode LGBT. I'll put it here. We're going to be watching it together. LGBT women versus former LGBT women. And this is going to be part one, y'all. So it's going to be 2 parts to this. Today we're going to be going over part 1. I have my handy dandy notebook with me because I will be taking notes because I am going to be having commentary. I will be having my own little spill as these questions are coming along. I also am going to answer them while we're listening to these answers and going over, our opinions, my opinion specifically, on what we heard in today's video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get. Okay, y'all, we're back. Let's jump into this video.
In this episode of The Bridge, LGBTQ plus women and former LGBTQ plus women discuss identity, sexuality, change, freedom, and what it means to live authentically, even when the journey looks different for everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Da. Welcome to The Bridge. Welcome, ladies. I'll have you go ahead and introduce yourselves, and you can just say what you identify as.
Okay, starting with me. I'm Chrissy. I am a transsexual woman, and I call myself a ladyboy because it's cuter, though.
I'm Bella. I just identify as a person. Like, I know I'm a woman, but what do you mean by the what? Like, person.
I'm Anne. I identify as non-binary, so I do go by they, them. Otherwise, I just identify as queer, generally.
Hello, I'm Elise Atkinson, and I identify as a beautiful black trans woman.
My name is Zyla Melody. I am a Christian, and I'm also formerly LGBTQ.
Hi, I'm Matrix. I'm former LGBTQ, and I'm a woman.
Hi, my name is Monet Beltran, and I'm a Christian woman, a former LGBTQ.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I am a Christian, and I'm former LGBTQ and acidic.
Hi, my name is Tyler. I'm a woman, Christian, former LGBTQ.
Thank you, ladies. And the first prompt is, you can't really leave the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay, so how they do it is they ask the question, right? Y'all heard the question. It was basically, the statement. It was, you cannot leave the LGBT community. Now, if you agree, you put up the green side of a little thingy, and if you don't agree, you put up a red one, right? So, we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to start off with my commentary before we listen to theirs, right? When I say you cannot leave community, I think in a sense of you more so cannot really detach from that part of you, like of it being a part of you in some way, right? Meaning you've had experience in community, you know how community dwells, works, you know how our experiences are. So when I say you cannot leave community, it's more so of a experience in spiritual way, right? Because it's stuck with you. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care how much cleansing, how much prayer talk, right, you go have, how much therapy you may have. I don't care how much you've seen the Lord. And the Lord, you say that the Lord, I have had enough experience and I have enough awareness to know that it is embedded in you, some way, shape, or form. right? And the not consequences, but the experiences and that you come across in your life either play into those type of minds, those type of feelings, or your decisions, whatever the case may be. But it is your free will, right? It is your free will on whether you want to act on them out of your own feelings and or faith process. I don't want to control that, right? But I do want to bring reality to things and let you know that you cannot get rid of it just by simply asking God, because I know I've had my own God experience, and we'll get into that later. But that's just my take. On to the rest of the video.
Okay, anyone can share.
The way I see it when it comes to like leaving, I do think you can technically leave, as in you're not a part of it, but talking with a lot of different people, and maybe this is not the others' experience here, but they still struggle with those thoughts. And even like leaving, it's a very conscious action, and it's one that you have to take with a lot of strength. And so I guess if you mean leave as in like disidentify, yeah, you can do that, but I think those thoughts and those feelings never actually leave.
I think what we're talking about is a difference with orientation and identity. I understand that, we, some of us will have those struggles with same-sex attraction for the rest of our lives, and then some will never even identify. So yeah, for sure, I think you could leave the identity of LGBTQ and still struggle with same-sex attraction. But like, as for myself, I left the identity and I became a woman of God, a Christian.
Okay, we listened to the first two, right? The way that ended and going to the this is why I hate not hate. Ooh, hate is such a strong word. Oh, I don't hate. But I cannot stand Christians like that who use God as a reason to why you left or were not strong enough to be who you really are and have God behind you, right? But going back to what she was saying about orientation versus identity, I do agree with to a certain extent, right? You don't have to identify with community and still, be dealing with same-sex individuals or people who are straight identifying who are dealing with queer individuals, right? Questioning whatever the case may be, vicarious, whatever floats your boat, right? They still do have to, sit with themselves and struggle with that orientation part, and however they may cope with it is how they cope with it. But using God though this is why people do not go to the church. Let's continue.
I didn't know how to answer that, but yeah, like, and the question, it was community, right? Like the LGBT community. So I think, like, even though I don't identify as like queer anymore, I do still have queer thoughts. So I do feel like I'm still a part of the community in that way.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by like leaving the community. Not to be like super pedantic about it, but like there's like you can always leave, but dealing with those thoughts and dealing with like, I mean, for you, I'm sure it feels like a struggle in a sense.
Not really. Like, it's just something that I do observe.
Yeah. But it's like you still have, even if you don't identify as it, I think like the important part of like calling it a community is that there's people who have similar traits who are treated a specific way in society because of those traits. And like when you leave, like I'm sure you identify as a straight woman, like you're not treated in the world as an LGBTQ member. You're not treated that way anymore. Whereas like if you were in those communities and in those spaces, like you're not a part of that anymore. You don't experience that, but you still have, I'm sure in the past, experienced what it's like to be in the...
I'm gonna like Anne. I think I'm gonna like Anne. And at least, I think it's at least, I think I would like these too, right? Mind you, right? I'm not a big fan of Caucasian people, but when they're smart and they know exactly, all right, we getting somewhere. I ain't giving you too much, because this should have been, but we getting somewhere, babes. We getting somewhere. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love to see it. I love to see it.
Communities and the discrimination that comes along with that, I'm sure.
Not necessarily, because I was never really involved in the LGBT. I never wore Pride. I never went to Pride. I never did and where I'm from.
You're never super open.
So yeah, I wasn't. And then maybe I dabbled with it a little bit. I'm sure people speculated I was open enough to the fact that I was doing things that people were drawing their own, but I never actually came out as bi or gay or anything like that.
Because I think for you that's probably pretty easy. You look straight. I'll be honest. You look straight.
Which is fine. I think some people tell me I still get gay vibes.
Really, that's crazy.
She do give me a strong
the thing is we can pretend okay.
But it's okay.
People in the LGBTQ plus community just look like everybody else. That's not true. I don't like to pretend that's true. There's people who walked in and immediately I had the thought you're on my side. You're.
All right. See, now I agree to this and I don't. It's a middle ground a little bit with it. I'm morally heavily more I don't agree, because here's what I run into on a constant basis, right? Because of my demeanor, because of how I dress, sometimes I may not be the most flamboyant or most feminine in the room, right? I might not be feeling like that day. Not at all. Not at all. I'm going to be a girl naturally, of course, bitch. I don't walk out of the house without my lash and my eyebrow done and a lip. And if I have to and I'm feeling not that pretty, a base of foundation and I call it a day, right? But outside of that, I don't think basing your, a look and judging that on someone's orientation, sexual orientation, is not to be, very smart, right? That people assume that I like girls because of the way that I dress or because of my demeanor, and I have no I don't do women of any sort of type, right? I don't do women of trans experience. I don't do women of cis experience. No. Now I deal with only men, trans, and cis. Only men. Strictly. That's it. That's all. Right? And however you may take that, that will be a straight relationship, but people don't see it to be that way, especially with some of the men that I am attracted to, or that I have been in relationship with, right? Or that I'm even in proximity of sometimes. It's just not the best way, but we'll give her a chance. We're going to see what she says. We're going to see where she's trying to make some sense of it, because I understand it sometimes. Like I said, she look a little stubby, but she said she's straight. She said she did some things. Am I tripping? Right.
You kind of look like, maybe you look like this, but in my head I immediately, and I think we all do that, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. It's how you treat people afterwards, after you make that assumption about them. And so I think, for you it might be different because, you left, and that is your decision, and you probably still get treated pretty similar to how you've always been treated.
I don't know. I don't know that I would agree with that I get treated with how I've always been treated. I don't know. right now.
So do you feel like you've been treated better, or I don't understand?
I feel like I get treated poorly by both sides, and maybe that's why I have empathy for both sides.
So you feel like you're treated poorly on the straight side because you're a woman, or do you feel like you're treated poorly on the gay side because...
I don't know how to answer that. I just want to say that I don't really ever... I mean, I when I first, was gay, I guess, I wasn't... It was because people had told me I looked like a boy. I had been misgendered, and there was multiple things happening, so it that shaped my identity to begin with. So I would associate that with a negative because it made me feel like I was not being right, if that makes sense.
So you felt...
Before she gets into it, therapy. Therapy, people, please. Whoo! I'm about to influence versus oneself. Because that's insane. Right? That's insane. I love that they are able to verbalize this now and that they are aware. But I want people in the future, after saying this, because this was 4 months ago, I need people to really go to therapy. Real bad. Real bad. Real bad. Because now you're making opinions based out of something that you could have taken care of out of yourself. And it's not a community thing. Not a community thing. You know? Maybe you have some ignorant, individuals around you, and your people tend to do that a lot when it comes down to judging others. Right? So, I think this was a moment that you should have just said, I think that whole journey should have been a self journey and not a community journey. But I do go to community for help to understand certain things. And I think that would have been the better direction. I really hope that you get a better support system.
Dysphoric about it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say I was treated poorly by any community necessarily. I would just experience that with it felt negative. But I don't associate that with why I ended up in a homosexual relationship. I feel like I was with another person that had probably had similar experiences. So I feel like my homosexual relationships were more about genuine human compatibility, which is probably where I'd relate to you.
Trauma bond? Trauma bond? Trauma bond.
More just human connection, and it doesn't really matter about gender. It's just we understand each other or we don't. But
I get that. I totally understand that too. I'm not going to take away the authenticity of feelings, right, and what comes with them. But I also do want people to understand the impact of not understanding oneself, right, and taking the time to be aware of outside noise versus yourself. That, I think, is also one of the most profound things that I understand as being a trans woman, is that I have a lot of time to be by myself just because I am trans. Just that simple fact alone, right? And so, let's let the girl finish. Y'all know I can go on a tangent.
I feel like I've probably experienced more prejudice from the heterosexual community, actually, for my sexuality, and because I'm just in general I express my sexuality more so, whether that's hetero or homo. It's just I and that probably has a lot to do with where I'm from too, being from Texas. It was more shameful to be sexual at all. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you can just look at someone and tell that they're in the community, but...
Oh, before she get into that, because I love her. I love these questions that she asks. But, like I said with mamas, I think it was more so of cultural oppression and restriction, and her wanting to find out herself and explore herself more. And the way that it sounds like, people say, but can say a lot, but in so many words, right? And by what I'm understanding is that just by her, like the atmosphere of Texas, which is a very restrictive, conservative state, especially when it comes down to LGBT, also a LGBT breeding ground. Let's be fucking for here. Let's be for real here, okay? And I can totally understand. But I don't understand where it becomes an I don't think it's an anti-LGBT thing. I just think she's just saying she's no longer doing LGBT things. Right? And she's just a woman that no longer does those things and expect. I don't know. We're going to see. We're going to see because my spidey senses are tingling.
Speaking of what she's saying, what if you're wrong? And I have known people where they were not, and they were assumed to be, and that actually affected them greatly.
I mean, that's kind of like the same way as like being wrong about if someone, speaks English on the street. Like I can walk up to anyone on the street and ask them for directions, but like if I'm just wrong and they don't speak English and I just go about my way, I say sorry. And I think for some people that will be hurtful. And I don't know why it would be hurtful to be assumed to be a part of the community. I think it's important for people who are part of communities to have ways to identify each other. And I think for a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community, part of that identity comes along with being more open, more expressive, more, not to say straight people aren't artistic, but a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community are more open about like their creative sides. And I think that shows. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making assumptions.
Hurtful to me. It hurts me a lot. Especially because I'm a model and I'm a rave DJ. Like, people ask me what my fucking pronouns are all the time, and
it's hurtful to ask your pronouns?
That's what she's saying.
That's what I'm saying. So, it's just, like, annoying to have to... I don't know. I feel like I should let you know rather than be asked because our piercings match, or because I have tattoos, or because I do something that inspires you, or you're interested in something that I'm interested in or something. I just...
Girl! Get the fuck out of here. Because our piercings match, because our tattoos match, bitch, I think I have to ask you your pronouns because you're so fucking eccentric. Oh my god. Bitch, are you fucking non-binary? Like, because our tattoos match and I think we're, like, on the same spiritual level. Like, be fucking for real with me right now. She gives me one of them hurt bitches that she couldn't find nothing or nobody wanted to fucking satiate her ass. And so now she sound bitter, right? Your pronouns, bitch, I'm trying to respect you. And no tea, no shade. You give me femboy. That's just off my perception. So for me to be respectful, babes, I'm going to ask you, she or he? And if you feel hit by that because of how you appear, I don't know. I don't know what to do. But be like, what you... Because what if I was just to go by my own fucking thought and my own fucking assumption and didn't fill in the gaps and just went off the first thought instead of not asking and just said, well, he kind of... Because, listen... Then you would have felt hit. And would have been like, excuse me, is that what you wanted to give? You wanted to have a moment? To always be like, no, I'm this. Versus somebody saying, or being able to catch your eccentricness, right? Your uniqueness, your differentness, right? And have the respect to ask you, hey. with anybody with like common human decency and respect will know the climate that we're in and will want to be respectful. I want to continue.
Like, I've worked so hard to get to this age where I love who I am as a woman and
You got to this age.
stuff. I don't feel like I need to explain that.
And
So
is
people
asking
like
for pronouns making you
it's
accept
not like, let's not reduce it to just the pronouns. It's like, even my sexuality, obviously people think I'm like lesbian, women find me attractive. That's kind of why I even fell into it in the first place. And I did love like my exes too, you know, like there were real genuine emotions. I thought I was going to live with them forever. Like I thought happy ever after and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, especially now that I have a husband, and I have so much respect for him, like, and for myself, like, I feel like, you know, if you're non-binary or a lesbian or, you know, whatever, like, you can communicate that, and, like, we shouldn't put that on everybody all the time, you know?
What do you mean put?
Who is putting anything on anybody by asking you your motherfucking pronouns? How did we get here? How did we get... Why does pronouns, something that we learned in elementary school, right? Shit, some states might have it earlier to pre-K and daycare, right? If the aides and the teacher aides and shit, and they're smart enough to teach that shit. But like, let's be for real right now. Can we be honest with this conversation? Let's be for real, because what it sounds like to me is that you finally found a man who likes you in all of your androgyny, right? Let's put it that way. In all of your uniqueness, which you did not find before, because what you stated was that you had a lot more women finding you attractive, meaning you probably had more of a masculine presenting look to you. Quote unquote, this video with this outfit that we're giving right now stink, right? And so I'm not trying to judge, but I'm also bringing light to, like, I'm gonna be the honest one. I would have been the honest one in this situation. I would have, like, made her look at herself and be fucking for real right now, because the way that you sound is as if you are, you know, above being asked a question. Is he or she? What is so damaging about that fucking question? What goes through you bird britches heads? Because that's what is given to me. It's so offensive to being asked he or she. When you know you don't even fit typical social woman dressing standards. Like, and then you say because you have a husband, you respect him so much. Okay, you love these girls. You did not love these girls and respect them enough to be honest with them? Or did you feel like that these girls were pressuring you to be in these relationships because they were giving you attention? Where's the accountability in this for you? Because you act like you didn't engage in these women too. It seems like narcissism runs within women as well.
Oh yeah, because people come to me all the time and ask me, and I feel like, why are you asking me?
I think it's just weird,
You know, and I kind of want to say, I get what you're saying, like, completely. Like, maybe not in the exact same way, but, like, when someone asks me, like, oh, what are your pronouns? Like,
Right.
To me, what I hear is, oh, you clocked me.
Right.
Oh,
right.
you, like,
it's
clocked me as
on
a
both
chick.
sides.
Like,
It's not about.
But what are you being clocked about? What are you being? Why are you being offended when you could have just said, no, it's she, babes. I'm a woman. Is your womanhood that fragile? Fragile feminism? Femininity? Is that the word? Fragile femininity? Wow. Wow, that's insane. Because that's insane to me. Because for you to sit here to think that this is from the trans, and I get her, right? Because being clocked as a trans woman is more so being like called out in a space of individuals where there's a mass majority of individuals that aren't. You as a cis individual have comfort in knowing that you are cis and being around other cis individuals. Now, being queer may be different, right? If you were standing in that, but you are saying that you are standing as a straight woman with your husband, where would the issue be? Why would you feel so disrespected, right? Right. Back to the video.
Oh, I have a problem with being non-binary. It's like, because I'm not, it bothers me. And if I was non-binary and someone said she, her, that would bother me too. Like, it's on both sides. And I think, like, just allow people to say it instead of assuming everyone is just like you because you see something of yourself in them. And, like, that's the problem for.
Basically, it sounds like you want everybody to go around and be like, hey, my name is Tessa. I'm trans. By the way. You want people to go around and announcing themselves in every moment for what? What do I have to tell you any of that information for? I don't have to. If you don't plan on being sexual with me in any type of capacity, what is the point of you knowing that I'm trans? Maybe for some type of like closeness and relation. I'm like, hey, this is my experience. My experience might be a little different, but I can relate because trans women do relate to cis women in way more areas than a lot of y'all tend to think. But that's a conversation later, right? But I'm just still trying to understand why would you think that will really be the same. But I'm gonna let her eat. She needs to.
If we're gonna be very honest, people don't ask everyone their pronouns. Like, some people will say, I ask everyone. It's like, no, you don't.
Exactly. They ask people who they think. And that's what I like. I know what I look like. I know I look androgynous, you know.
I believe there's a culture that's being formed.
So if you know you look androgynous, wait a minute. Wait a fucking minute. If you know you look androgynous, why is it so much of an issue? If you know you have an androgynous look, your presentation may be androgynous, right? Why would that be so much of an issue to you that yes, if I think it, I'm not going to move without asking. I think that will be the most respectful thing versus someone coming up and having to present them. I think that's more exhausting. I think versus just asking and saying, hey, is it this and this? Yes or no? And then if you're feeling some type of way, you can ask, hey, what made you think that? What made you even ask that? Right? Communication. Not taking and harboring an emotion and making a thought process or mindset based off of that you didn't even really like dig into. Sorry, the camera cut out. So like, I just want cis women to like start really taking initiative in the conversation when it comes down to like pronouns and identity, and things of that nature.
in regard to this, that the pronouns and titles and identities are becoming above even seeing and hearing somebody. And so it was almost like this pendulum swing where it's like, can you please ask me how I identify? Or like, hey, please just let me be. And so it's like gotten pretty extreme. Like even for me, the intimidation of having this conversation was, man, I hope I get the language right. But most of all, I hope you hear my heart, and I hope you see my heart. And that was my biggest thing, because I see you and I want to know you. And I've been waiting for this moment to talk to the LGBTQ community, which I lived majority of my life in. And so I think that like what you're addressing is the way it's made you feel.
Oh, I can feel it in my spirit. This is about to be one of them preachy. Like, Lord, guard my mouth. Because, Lord Jesus, this is... this is about to be... I can feel it. I can feel it. It's on the rise. Yeah.
And I love to hear how it's made you feel. But sometimes I have this intimidation of, man, if I don't identify them the right way, it seems hateful, and that's not like my heart. And so I
don't think you're hateful. I think you called me she, her a few times, but I don't... I think there's an overreaction.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, like, you don't get upset when people assume you're a woman. And I think that you probably, everyone here you assumed was also a woman, which I think the title of the video includes, like, the name woman or something like that. But you don't get upset at those assumptions. You assume everyone else here is a woman. You call everyone else she, her. But, like, I feel like if someone just corrects you, then that's fine. I wouldn't get offended ever if someone asked me.
But that's you. Like, just because you get offended or don't get offended, I don't, like, but that has nothing to do with me.
I'm confused what's offending.
I think I already addressed it.
I think it really boils down to intent, because I have been on people were like, oh, what are your pronouns? And I'd be like, what you mean? Like, obviously, like, it's she and her. But then I'm like, people are like, well, no, because, you know, your voice is deeper, or you have these features, and I was able to tell you were trans. I didn't mean to offend you. I just wanted to make sure I respected you. So I think it's all about intent.
Yes.
So I don't think somebody being like, may I know your pronouns? Because like you said, you are aware that you look more androgynous. So some people may think, you going to be on this side, but now you're on this side, you know? So it's like, I'm trying to find a better way to respect you. So I feel like sometimes you just have to see the intent.
I can see the intent.
I don't think she sees the intent. I don't think she sees the intent. Because if you can just see... Like, you can... I think what she might be... I think she... you know what? I'm going to take that back. She might do see the intent, right? Because people's tones to things are very, 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 very distinct, right? Like, you can tell what somebody is saying in their tone. Bitch, you could, by that, just, you know when somebody is saying bitch versus bitch, right? You know when somebody want to fight you versus when somebody is antagonizing you, or versus just plucking with you or just being friendly with you, right? You can just tell in the way that they sound. And I think that's where she might be coming from, is, you know, when people are, because people do that, you know, people ask questions just to pick and prod, just to make fun, you know, just to do the antagonizing, like, oh, we know, like it gave stuff like that, right? Sometimes at the beginning of my transition, I used to think that being clocked by the other sisters, you know, in my head was like a bad thing. But sometimes it means just like, hey, sister, I see you. I see you, you see me, we see each other. Okay? And it can be a camaraderie type of thing. Like, he'd be like, hey, if anything pop off, I'm over here. Sometimes. Because some of these bitches is just shysty and will let anything happen to you. You know, all bitches for themselves. But then you have those girls that are really the ones that will, you know, ride for you if anything was to happen in the area. Bitch, me and you, we out of here, or I got you, I got your back, and I'll help you get about, you know, whatever the case may be. I had a couple of girls like that in my life, right? But I think where this comment, because Elise gets it, I think the intent behind everything matters. Because if I'm asking you on a normal basis, and we're you know, on a friendly note, nothing seems tense, I don't see so much of a problem asking a question. Right? And I don't think it would be me pushing anything on you, especially if I'm not telling you and basically forcing a hormone shot damn near in your chest or vein. But that's, yeah, let's continue.
And too, because like so, no, for sure, yeah. like I can tell when somebody's like genuinely curious, because even like a younger like teen or something asking me and they're like inspired, like that's happened. I can tell when someone's like genuinely curious versus like someone insulting me and calling me trans as an insult. Like people have done that. There's a difference when someone's coming and asking me, hey, are you trans? Versus like telling me I am because I said I left the LGBT community. Because that's happened before. I've shared my story online. People have insulted me. It's like, oh, well, you look like a lesbian. You don't know what you are. And they do that too. So it's like both sides. You know what I mean? It's, even if I was on the LGBT community, like let's say someone assumed I was straight or something, like I feel like that would be equally offensive if you're like living a certain lifestyle. You see your...
But here's the confusing part. If they know your story, they're probably just as confused as I am. Because maybe I have to go learn your story, right? Because I didn't learn your story, right? So I don't know how you acquired this husband. I don't know how all of a sudden you got out of these gay relationships that you were in and you were such in love and seeing that you were going to be in these long-term relationships for long periods and times and you seen forever with these women. I will be confused too. And be like, girl, are you conforming because it's safer? Because a lot of people do that too. People conform for safety and comfort, right? They go to that for stability. It's not easy being in the LGBT community, especially when majority of the society is not for you, and they don't see you to be worth even really being around, right? Or substance. Unless you are performing. So I get it to a certain extent. But for you to sit here and to act like you don't understand and you don't know why you're being asked these things and you're being insulted is insane to me. You know you dress androgynous. You present more masculine. No shade. Okay? And it's kind of hard to sit here and believe you when you say that these are insults to you. But that's neither here or there. Let's continue.
A certain way, your peers see you as a certain way, and then like people are constantly like harassing you, thinking because you're overly feminine or whatever that they think you're something that you don't think you are. And I don't have to deal with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but we also gotta navigate in the way that the world is. So we know,
right?
We know the norms. We know the norms, and we know that what's going on today is people ask pronouns because people are becoming more socially aware of trans people, non-binary people. So sometimes it's just the way the world is right now. Even though we don't have a perfect society yet that can coddle what we're feeling, it's just like, it is what it is right now. Because some people are going to be like, at the end of the day, you're still a man. I'm be like, and that's your opinion. But,
I'm with you.
So it's
I'm with you.
Yeah, but I'm like, so it's just... But yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying.
I get to decide whether I want to opt in or opt out. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm here.
I think it's a projection that we put on each other. Like, you mentioned earlier, like, we should be able to tell, or I can tell.
I didn't say should, but...
Okay, yeah. And so it's like, oh, you could tell. And I think the assumption and also the projection could be, like, it's a sensitive thing. And so it's like... Even like, addressing and communicating and having relationship with LGBTQ, I'm trying to avoid projecting and I'm trying to avoid the assumption. And it's like, I want to see you and hear from you. And in regards to language, like I'm learning too. And as culture evolves, society evolves, the language continues on to shift. And it has become confusing. Like, I mean, sometimes I'm kind of confused of who's what and what's who. But know my heart, like I just literally don't know. And so I just hope they can hear my heart, because if I say something wrong, it might be like hateful and then they're offended. And it's just like this high sensitivity of offense.
But that's when asking questions come in.
Yeah. And so I love you sharing that earlier.
Thank you. Like, what is going on? Have we forgotten how to communicate in the American language? Like, what is going on? Asking questions is crucial crucial to how things can go safely. Y'all letting anxieties and thought mindsets, like you putting too much into language and not worrying about just speak. You want people to hear your heart and just talk, baby. Like, not all of us are fucking sensitive monsters. And then you understand, you should be aware that, once you get a sensitive or overly, unwarranted answer, that is not the person that you should be asking. I mean, I think people doing the work and like observing and then paying attention to certain things to understand that certain people are worth asking and some people aren't. And if you're too scared to ask, maybe that is not somebody you should want to talk to. Or the other way around, you can talk to that person and you're letting yourself get the best of yourself. Hey, Stinkbutt. Hey, Hansel. I know. Hi. Say hey, everybody. Get scoops. Hey. Hey. And so, I don't know. I'm gonna let her continue.
Like, just talk to me about it. And I love that. Like, hey, let's just talk. And like earlier we got to talk and we've had great conversations. And so I am so thankful for us to have this talk, because I think it brings clarity, just because of the culture and society that's evolving is not in a place of love and respect. It's in a place of assumption, projection, and as well as you need to affirm my belief system. And that's not the right heart posture. I believe that we all are not for,
And the next prompt is,
oh, I see where she's going before the next prompt. I see where she was trying to go with that. Oh, but I don't like it. I told y'all she on some bullshit. That's a Bible thumper. I don't like it. She probably is a wife of a pastor somewhere. And he then gave her some magical ding ding and some coin and told her to shut all that gay shit up. Yeah. Say hi. Don't lick my face. We don't do that. We don't. What about us though?
gender is a social construct.
It is. That's right.
Some yeses and some nos. Okay, I haven't heard much from you. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I think that gender is a category in the sense of identifying with maybe commonality more so, whereas like sex is a difference for biological. So I think gender is something that can shift based on roles and work and different identities.
What is a category? A category is move, Stink, move. A category is basically a group that is put together of similar, if not all of the same type of things, or people, or places, or things. Socially made.
So I think that it's definitely socially constructed. So I was pretty much the only person on the side that did disagree. I think with the whole gender as a social construct, I kind of think it's very reductive to trans people in general to say that gender is a social construct. Is gender expression a social construct? 100%. However, at the end of the day, humans and mammals are born inherently knowing things about their birth sex. And, you know, if I was put on an island never having met another person, I would feel inherently bad about myself because I have gender dysphoria. We've done brain scans on trans women, and trans women's brains are not aligned to male or female. We're our own separate whole thing, and same with trans men. And so to say gender is a social construct, I feel like takes away that very medical reality and kind of reduces it to, well, if it's a social construct, why not just stay a man? If it's a social construct, why not just stay a woman?
I think because how we perceive men and women, that's the social contract. That has changed for every century. I feel like what a man does or a man wears is different from what a woman wears.
But wouldn't that just fall under gender expression?
No, it's a performative thing.
And I'd like to insert something from the thing.
I think what she was performative, yes. But when I hear performative, it's more so like an act. When I hear something like this, I hear more of a I hear more of a performance, but like not performance. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think it's more set like behaviors, instead of like a performative kind of thing. I think it's a set of behaviors that are instilled or learned or acquired or just, embedded in somebody that, mannerisms and things like that. Okay. Back, and we're about to get on to this next question here in a second. But before we get to there, I just wanted to say they did have a like little break off part where they were talking about their one of the girls was talking about how she felt like she had to conform to be more of a man based on how she was feeling and based off of what people were telling her about how she looked and things of that nature when it came down to transness and stuff like that. And I just wanted to say this is like to my individuals who are facing that confliction within themselves of whether or not they are a man or a woman or if they're trans, non-binary, things of that nature. I really tell people to really like don't really consume so much of an outsource of who you should be and really sit with yourself, ask with yourself and listen to yourself. Don't be afraid to do this type of work with yourself, because later down the road when you realize that you are just consuming what everybody else is telling you and you don't know who you are, at the end of the day you've made choices based on who you don't who you think that you should be, is going to hurt you in the long run, and not all blessings are good blessings. Sometimes blessings turn into lessons. So I tell everybody, before you really make a hardcore decision, because you are finding yourself and you may be lost and you're just wanting to look for validation, love, camaraderie, community, just safeness, security, start with being secure with yourself first. And sometimes that starts with being real with yourself and saying that, hey, I just might need to slow down. Right? But let's get to the next question, right?
And the next prompt is, an experience from my past changed the way I viewed myself and my sexuality.
Now, I'm going to start off by saying that I relate to this one really, 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 really bad. Just because I went through, and to be very transparent with myself, I went through a roller coaster when it came down to figuring out and being secure with who I am, right? I have always been a more feminine, flamboyant individual when it came down to my energy and how I like to be with my friends and social groups and just my outward character, right? But then I also am very dominant, or what you would like to say masculine in some areas, because I am more of the tomboyish, chill, very relaxed, like to get things done her way, at a pace, not rushed. That kind of girl. I've always been that kind of person. And so when I first came out, I was bisexual, but I had my first ever sexual intercourse moment with another person was with a grown man, and I was raped. So not to trauma dump on y'all, and things like that, but it was a sexual assault. And that not opened a window, but I was already attracted to men or boys. My first ever biggest crush was my best friend Asante, in elementary school. And so when this happened in middle school, it definitely made me a little bit more secluded yet curious about things, right? Things that I already were on the attunement to. So then later I became bisexual. I came out as bisexual in high school, which later down the road quickly changed because I just gravitated more to who I was attracted more to, when it came down to, attractiveness, conversation, mindset, how they made me feel. And like I said, I always was presented as a more feminine natured person. So when I interacted with boys and things of that, I always got treated like a girl, right? And then, of course, I lived a gay life as through the lens of a gay man for about 6-7 years. Once I came out, and that was a hurdle because I was always putting myself. I lived by gender roles. I was always putting myself in the position of, well, I see myself this way, so this is how you're going to treat me. And men looked at me and was like, the fuck out of here. And it was just intimate. That the first person that I had, I'm going to call him Leo. The first person that I ever really got grounded with was Leo. He was twice my senior. He sat me down. He let me know what it was, and really shook me and told me, it was like, look, I don't even see you like this. He was like, and I want you to understand, I need you to go find yourself, because I'm not the one that's going to be able to help you on this journey. You need to be able to live. Blah, blah, blah. What I'm looking for is, I need somebody that's going to be strapped down, and you don't need to be strapped down. Long story short, he let me go and find something new, in which I found myself. Basically, I had gotten into this group of friends where I basically had fell into such a dark hole that the hole led me to God, right? And God literally told me, I am going to bless you with who you are and not what you were. Verbatim. I am going to bless you with who you are and not what you were. Ooh, just thinking about it again now. Because where I was in that time in my life, I was getting alcohol pumped out of my stomach, right? I'd have been intoxicated and overdosed. So I know for a fact what I heard and seen and felt when those words came upon my spirit. It was nothing but God, right? So I need people to take heed that there are experiences that can shift them that don't have to be sexual, and they can be completely spiritual and emotional, that decides who they are and what they decide to and who they decide to be in life, right? It could take that one moment, that one person, that one experience, that one event. So this question was very deep for me when I first heard it.
So that's pretty much, sort of, kind of. Okay.
Okay, well, no, I don't have anything that, define my sexuality. I mean, I like men, but I hope that there's more to me than that.
In terms of like when you grew up as a child, you know, how did you get to where you are now?
It was a no-brainer for me. It was just, I always knew, and I always was aware who I was. And I feel like what it sounds like a lack of self-awareness on the side turning into projection. Like, oh, this didn't work out for me, and it's y'all fault, and it's the movement's fault. But I think it's okay to, not everybody has the, you know, they don't know who they are right away, and everybody has that privilege. Right. So if you don't, that's okay too, but I don't think it's right to project that on others, like, oh, this is why.
Exactly.
But no, I've always known who I was. It was never a question.
I've known that I liked girls since I was 4. This girl kissed.
And I think mine was, again, lack of information, lack of resources. Because it's, once I understood, because right after that incident, that God moment I had met my first in-person trans woman, right? We were at the club, right? And she came up to me and she told me, she's like, you know you're not a woman, right? And this was, I believe like a week or 2 after I had just got out the hospital and had that incident. And so it was a lot that had transpired, and it was looking back after therapy. Cause listen, I had to really sit and realize that like this was something that was always present in my life, right? I just never knew what to call it. And at first, my friends and things like that, because I gravitated to RuPaul really, really heavy, right? And I just thought that's what it was. I was like, am I a drag queen? Like, I don't want to be a drag queen though. Like, what would I like? And I said, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm having to come up with names and thinking of a performance and things of that nature, until I sat down and was like, I don't want to do that. Like, it would be fun. I would see it to be like a hobby, but the first time I put myself up in geesh, bitch,
Kissed me on the playground, and my mind was blown. But I grew up very religious and conservative, and so when my parents found out in high school, I got put in conversion therapy, which didn't work, and foster care, and then I was finally able to like go to college and like live my life. I tried to date a guy, and he stole my weed, and it was like, okay, not for me. And I've just been with girls ever since. But I know growing up like with older brothers and a single dad, and just kind of like seeing how girls and boys were treated differently, it made me not like my own gender, which eventually I like worked on and trying to work on.
Did you say you went to foster care?
Yes.
How did you end up in foster care?
I was 15 and my parents found out I had a girlfriend, and got physical, school noticed like my face and stuff, like, cops. But it worked out for the best, because that's the only reason I got to go to college. I got to become free, get away from like the conservative ideals.
You know, see, God works in mysterious ways.
I'm sorry that happened.
It's okay. It was for the best. Yeah, and I talked to my.
And you can't say God ain't can't say God ain't with us, because listen, what? And got to go to college and came out and looking for Nam. Okay? Not attracted to women again. But I can still appreciate a pretty woman when I see one. Or a nice looking woman when I see one.
My family now, and we're close, and they're like accepting of me now, so it worked out.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone on the side?
Yeah, I could very much relate to your life story. Like, absolutely. That's
something. As soon as she started talking, something right here in my chest just tightened up. Just. I don't think I'm ready for her.
It's been, except for the foster care part, but my parents did abandon me and leave me pretty much physically and emotionally. They just kind of kept a house, a roof over my head. But yeah, my heart goes out to you. That's very difficult. And you have such a story, a beautiful story. Yeah, and so I was the same in regards to like just, felt born gay. and had this from the get-go an attraction to women. And so I just thought, man, I'm born gay. Like, there's no other way. My whole family believed it. They supported me. They're like, yep, she's born gay. Absolutely born gay. Huge tomboy, all these different things. And then started hearing the, I don't know if you'd call it gender ideology. I don't know if you'd call it gender dysphoria. I don't know what you call it, but started hearing about trans. And so I thought maybe I was like a man born in a woman's body. I even went to a doctor because I told her, like, I think I'm a man, but my body is saying something else. So can you take my blood work and do all the tests on me? And, because I need to know that I'm a man. And when she came back and said, you're 100% woman.
Okay, I need to stop right there. Never mind. Hold on. Let's gain some more context because I knew it. I knew. Let her finish.
It was devastating. I was like crying, like, what's wrong with me then? And so like my whole brain of thinking like, man, I'm a man born in a woman's body. I need to transition my body to become a man. Like what's going on here? But my experience was very different. I hated Jesus, hated Christians. I thought the Bible was full of dictatorship and fairy tales. I wanted nothing to do with it. I couldn't stand religious people, and I was living my life just fine. And I had a radical encounter with Jesus. And I met Jesus, who is love. And, man, the fear of the Lord hit me, and I didn't realize it was him. And I just said, Lord Jesus, forgive me of my sins. Be the Lord and Savior of my life. And Holy Spirit, make me new. And I was no longer born again, but became born as a new creation. And I did not ever hear about anyone ever getting delivered from homosexuality or transgender. And 6 months later, God showed me he's the great I am. And I am who I am. I'm the great I am. And you are who you are. You look just like me. And the Lord just shifted this whole idea and all this effort of trying to become something. I just get to be a daughter of the Most High King. And all of a sudden, my identity just came into a solid ground. And so, like, just talking in regards to the different shifts of social identity, of gender, all these things, it's exhausting. But this place of knowing who I am and accepting and receiving who I am created to be has been the most freeing for me. So I would say there's many things in regards to my past that have affected who I am today, but it's been definitely a journey of coming from one end of the spectrum to, like, all of a sudden, how do you become this radical woman of God, believing all the word of God other than the Spirit of God who made me new? And so in regards to my identity today, I would say that I identify with what the word of God says who I am and who my Father in heaven says who I am. And that's what I identify, and that's where I've become who I am today.
Okay, so this is where I have an issue with Christians, right? Especially Christians that use Jesus as a reason to why you have completely converted and why you have dedicated your life to being a heterosexual woman, because this is what the Bible speaks not about homosexuality whatsoever. It only condemns sleeping with younger boys in all contexts, right? From all ages, it means younger boys and mistreatment of women. Right? So, meaning touching basically on children, touching on women in very vile and very visceral ways, right, are not of the Bible. Nothing of homosexuality or of gender identity, right? Now, if we argue Genesis, there's different versions that say male and female, that say man and woman. But again, binary words. We'll talk about that in a different conversation. But this whole, she thought she was trans when she heard about the information. And then the doctor telling them that, no, you're a full-blown woman. That is an uneducated doctor in the field all entirely, by my knowledge, right? Because they must not understand the difference between gender identity and biological sex, right? And then they did not even be able to diagnose you effectively because you were someone that was possibly going through a form of gender dysphoria, right? or dysmorphia. But that's neither here or there, because you're saved now. God has cleansed you, right? You are no longer living in the identity of the LGBT, but you're living in the identity of Jesus Christ, and that is all that is what it is. And I love that for you. But what I do want you to understand is, by using that rhetoric, is also showing people that suppressing themselves in the name of religion is also a part of self-harm, right? Because you say you've never heard someone be saved or cleansed of homosexuality, because this doesn't happen. That is something that you are born with, regardless of how much you would like to deny it or perform that you are not, right? That is something that it is not something that you can be saved from, because it's not something that he condemns. He actually encourages love, right? And that love in all form, right? That means love of all shapes and sizes, right? That means love between all consensual ages, right? Of moral aspects, right? Because I cannot speak for anything outside of the United States of America at all, but I'm going to speak within the United States of America, right? Anything of consensual age, adulthood. In my case, 21 plus, but I don't even fuck with nobody that's 25, for real. 25 plus in my book. I'm damn near 30. Okay? You can't even really get a conversation out of me if that's, yeah. But I just think people using Jesus, because I'm a believer. I am a believer in the Holy Most High, right? God, his son Jesus, and all of his children that he has made prophets under him, right? And I'm not just talking about the 12 prophets. I'm talking about all of them, books and all, right? And I've learned all of their lessons. I understood all of their walks, even Jesus walk, right? And it's not to condemn, and it's not to suppress oneself. It is always about to release. It is always to encourage. It is always to be about being the best and loving one neighbor after the other, right? Loving each other, no matter how much shit gets gone. But he also teaches you to not let your shit just keep, letting just life keep kicking you in the ass and letting people treat you any kind of way. An eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Don't forget that, right? It's in the Bible too, right? But we forget about that. We forget that God has also slaughtered children. Be for real right now. So let's not act like God is above correction for us. Okay, he is not. He will correct us quickly, fast, in a hurry, right? And that even comes down to us hurting ourselves. He'll punish you for that too, especially if you aren't considering yourself to be in the same vision as he does, right? And that's in all aspects. But I'm gonna leave that. That's.
I want to say, like, I'm also a Christian, but without even giving that Christian explanation, like from a secular approach, it's, why do I have to pay so much money to conform? Like, going back to the being misgendered and all that stuff, that shaped how I saw myself. I always saw myself as inadequate. I'm not enough of a woman. I don't belong. I'm not good enough, Why does anyone have to feel that way? And if you don't have like $25,000, or you don't want to commit 2 years plus to this lifelong journey that I think becomes all encompassing. And it's like, I've seen people, once they're transitioning, it's like that's the sole center of their life is their transition. I think that's sad. I think there's so much more to life. There's so many more avenues of exist. chance of being human. I'm sorry?
Right. You're not trans, that's why.
Exactly.
Well, but I chose not to be trans is what I'm saying.
It's not a choice.
I disagree.
You can choose to transition, but you don't choose to be trans.
Thank you.
No, because it's something that it's how you're born.
And exactly. And for you to be thinking of, like, do you not understand that people pay the same amount of money that we do for our transitions just to get augmentations to their own bodies, right? Breast augmentations, they cost just as much. Like, you think that our breast augmentations or chest removals is just as much as, is any more or any less than a cis person's, right? So just the same reason that any other cis person will go get their titties bigger or their ass fatter or go get their hairline fixed or their teeth fixed, whatever the case may be. Shit, I've seen men nowadays go get their fucking legs enhanced to get taller. So let's be for real here. Let's be for real. Let's not make it about the cost of us living our lives the issue into why you chose to continue to live in a conformity mindset because you want to suppress yourself. Like, I'm not doing that. You're the one. I'm not confused about myself. I know exactly where I want to be. I know exactly who I am, and I know exactly how I'm going to get there. Right? You don't. You're lost in your own sauce, babe. And then you're making it seem like that is a communal issue because you don't know where you fit in the community. Now, I'm not going to say community is the fucking safest place either because it's not. I have just made a post the other motherfucking day. I will hold my breath before I ever ask community for help. And that's a stand-in for right now. Just because I understand the inner workings, right? But that is still not going to stop me from being who I am and taking the avenues and taking the resources and gaining the resources or gaining the knowledge and taking the steps that it is for me to be who I am authentically and genuinely. So I can be happy. So my mental is stable. So my emotional is stable, right? A lot of y'all think that we're so cuckoo, but not realizing that we're doing the things to stay way more sound of mind, way more emotionally clear, intellectually sound, and more emotionally aware. And not just emotionally aware, socially aware, economically aware, right? Spiritually aware for some. So again, this trans thing goes beyond just the physical or looking cunty and looking pretty and getting titties and getting ass and getting a vagina. It's so much beyond that. It's a mental thing. It's an emotional thing. It's a spiritual thing. And if you're not even stable in one of those, what makes you think you will even be able to understand a person who is stable in more than just two? Not saying that all of the girls is fucking right completely, but when it comes down to knowing who they are, most trans and or queer people, LGBT, all in this entirely, know who they are in a sense, or have more of a grounding sense of who they want to be and who they're going to be. Right? The spiritual aspect is always going to be a working thing, especially in this generation right now. But when it comes down to being, and because everybody operates out of ego nowadays, everybody knows their ego side very well. Everybody gets quick to tell you, oh, I'm the baddest bitch. I'm this and this and this about myself. I'm proud to be the proud black gay woman, the proud black gay man, the proud black woman, the proud black man. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. But can fail to actually tell you what it is that they really wanted in life, how they're going to get there, and who they really are, right? Like, no one has a personality outside of their body, and then their character shows. That was a drag. I'm going back to this video. We're gonna finish this up.
I think that's where both sides truly differ, because your experiences are different, and I think you're settled in how you feel based on your experiences, but they also have different experiences saying that that's not true. But I would like to hear from you.
So on my whole journey, the reason why I said I agree is because I actually got exposed to, in a very negative light, of what being trans was when I was 4 years old. Saw a trans woman on TV. She did not, very pass much. And I was with my grandmother. She didn't pass very much.
Okay.
I was with my grandmother, and I said, "Grandma, is that a boy or girl?" She said, "It isn't it, and that's all it will be." And I said,
Jerry Springer.
Okay, so that was my introduction to trans people. Later on, however, even from very young, whenever I thought of myself, whenever I thought of my future, I thought of a girl. I thought of little girls. I thought, I never had girl interests. I mean, occasionally, yeah, like I played video games, but I always picked girls and stuff like that. But that's
all right, y'all. We about to wrap up this. It's on the last couple of minutes because listen.
The reason to bring that up is just because to talk about that has nothing to do with being trans. Like, again, gender expression versus true gender. And as I kind of grew older, I told kids in school that, like, I was a girl. And originally I did that because I was told, again, about the whole boys can't be with boys. And eventually, as I got older, I did come out as just gay. And I was gay for a while, but I noticed I've always had these gigantic insecurities about this or that, about my body, about my face and everything like that. And everyone always told me how attractive I was. I even had, fellow gay boys telling me that I was really, that I was hot and stuff like that. And, I was around 17. Around 16, I got my first job, and I started dressing a lot more femme because I was able to pick my own clothes out. And around 17, I was just kind of like looking at myself, and I was picking apart what I didn't like about myself. And it was the fact that I read as male. It was the fact that I was a guy. It was the fact that, like, people would see me and say, like, that's a guy. Whenever I thought of myself and my imperfections, it was the fact that they were male traits, male qualities. And so from there, it just made a very logical sense to be like, well, you know what? Like, if I'm already dressing this way, if I'm already, like, feeling this way, like, I'm going to transition. Like, this is going to be what's best for me, because at the end of the day, that's exactly how it was. And when you say being trans is a choice, it's exactly like she said, transitioning is a choice for sure. But being trans really isn't, because, again, it brings it back to the entire fact that neurologically, yes, our brain structure is very different from birth. Having gender dysphoria is not something that you can opt in or out of. And not everyone who is gay or experiences that experiences gender dysphoria.
And this is why I tell people, like, it is very, 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 very crucial for people to stop thinking that every LGBT or trans or gay, like anything, we correlate or operate the same, right? I do agree with her on the neurological base, right? When I did find out more information, when I did find out resources, it did influence it to the point of I resonated with the resources and the information that was given to me, right? And did not satiate, nor did it dictate rather or not that I was going to be trans or not, because again, this was something that was already within me, right? I just never understood or could explain what it is that I was feeling. And when I would hear the woman trapped inside of a man's body type of rhetoric, or you are just a very flamboyant boy and things of that nature, it just those things never really resonated to me as much. Like the woman trapped inside of a man's body kind of thing was just like, well, I'm not really trapped if I'm living my day-to-day life, like I'm that girl, period. So it was always that type of energy with me. It was just the reactions that I would get from people, right? And yes, of course, not saying that, oh, everybody affirmed it. Of course not. I would have the people that would down talk me, call me delusional, call me crazy, or no, you're just this or you're just that. But once I found information, I started doing more self-questioning, self-centering myself. And then again, when I had that run-in with God, and he told me that he was going to bless me with who I am and not who I was, and that person who I was somebody who suppressed themselves, who shrunk themselves, who was quiet when people told them to be quiet, said I speak when spoken to. I was the loud eccentric one. I would say certain things. I was the party starter, right? But I was also the one that I had to wait to be spoken to. I had to wait to have a moment. I had to be I was the token in the friend group, right? And so it was certain limitations that I was putting on myself because of the social standards that I thought I had to be upheld because of the things that I liked or I was attracted to, or what I thought society was telling me was appropriate for me, right? So it was until those moments of my transition where I was sitting and I wasn't just asking people, I was asking myself. I was having a Tessa moment when Tessa understood where she was coming from, and with the little girl inside of her that finally got to speak, right? And she was finally being able to verbalize things and correlate and categorize and direct and guide people into how to help her, even if they did not know how to help her, right? And that's why I tell people, or especially cis women, right, that we are a lot more closer to each other than we are apart when we come down this womanhood role, right? When it comes down to our journeys and self-discovery and self-love and dealing with men in society and the views that are put upon us.
Where you are now, feeling like that was what was missing for you, right? Like the fact that you felt like a boy, or were perceived as a boy, when that's not how you felt on the inside.
You know, because I realized the times when I felt the happiest, when I felt the most comfortable in myself and my appearance, was when people genuinely assumed I was a girl. And when someone, you know, it wasn't when someone was like, oh, do you go by she, her? No, it was like someone being like, oh, she, her. Or like even someone being like, oh, I thought you were a girl. I noticed like that is what made me happy. That is what, like, I was like, was the only time I ever felt like, oh wow, like I feel confident in myself. Even at my heaviest weight, when I was 180 pounds, I was, every now and then someone would assume I was a girl, and that was what genuinely lightened my life. It's what helped my insecurities.
So do you feel like you have peace now with with how you look
complete
and how
peace
you
over here, babe.
are perceived?
Once I'm at a point where like I'm passable and stealth, it's like,
I mean, even with that point, like I'm completely comfortable in every aspect of myself, right? No makeup on, right? My PCOS skin is what people call it. I call it, I'm truthful, my hyperpigmentation, because, you know, after having a beard since the age of 13, and then, you know, starting a transition at 23, that's 10 years of having facial hair. You go through some things and trying to clear that up. But again, I'm not a woman that is afraid of that, right? I know that's a story, again, I can relate to with women with PCOS, because again, my hormones, if my hormones are imbalanced, guess what comes back, right? Because I am a girl who is still a few sessions out of being completely done with laser hair removal, right? So being transparent like this is something that I offer to cis women, to understand that camaraderie is open, especially with a lot of trans women that they fail to want to actually be a part of, right? Because the passability thing is subjective. Stealth is subjective. Do you know how many I live right across the street from the hood. I can go down the street right now to 10 bitches. Fuck it. Let's go down to 5 bitches that look socially manlier and more masculine than I do. Right? And so, and I'll be considered more of a woman by appearance than they would. Right? And I just live my day to day. So even with the passability, I that complex has left my head. That was, if you would have hit me year 2 and 3 of my transition, I would have definitely said passability matters, right? It matters because of safety. But then growing in this experience and now being I started my transition in 2019, so 6-7 years now been in transition, and at this point I'm can proudly say that passability is subjective. These motherfuckers are going to do whatever the fuck they want, right? And trust and believe is more about how you carry yourself, right? And the respect that you get by that care, by how you carry yourself, and the character that you decide to portray, right? The womanhood, right, that you decide to give off, not just the soft performative femininity that most men are drawn to, because once they fuck you, they no longer care because you just gave them with, yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
That's just gonna kind of be like, of course, dysphoria is never gonna go away. It is a lifelong thing, but it's either that or I just hate myself 24/7 all day, every day. So I don't really think I have a choice in that matter if I want to live a normal life. So,
and I think I get where you're coming from, where like you've had a different experience where you've changed over time and now you feel confident you look very confident being a woman, being identified and recognized as a woman by society. And I think that the unfortunate part is that you experience the complete pendulum swing from like, well, you have the hateful people who are like, you'll always be a man, like you'll never be a real woman, like, and their goal is just to be right and to hurt other people. But I think it seems like you experience the opposite end of that pendulum, where it seems like you were influenced to believe that you were trans, even if you were or weren't or whatever. I can't speak for what your true identity is because I don't believe in like there being some objective fact about that or whatever. But I think that that's a fringe minority. Mm-hmm. I don't think that anyone on this side would agree that you should have been told growing up, you might be a boy, like, because you like, you know, blue and trucks and whatever. Like, I don't think any of us agree that should have been the case, that you should have felt pressured into that either way. But I think that's a minority. And I think
it's such a small minority, right? Because if that was the case, I think transness would be so much more accepted, right? If you were being pressured and influenced and told that, oh, you should be a boy, you would fit more into being a man because you do such and such and things of this and that nature, I think transness would be a little bit more widely accepted. And I don't think that you would have so much of a confliction, right, if it was solely resonating with you, right? Because individuals that I tend to find that have a supporting environment around them, right, tend to have that self-discovery moment faster, right? Because now they feel safer to express themselves, to be vulnerable, and to have conversation about this, right? So then they be able to not just have conversation about it with others, but with themselves. And the conversations that they tend to have can be a little bit more healthier because the dynamics are a bit more accepting, right? The mannerisms, the characteristics, the behaviors are more understood and accepted, not so much on a physical note of what they are paying attention to, but so much what you are saying and then correlating to what you do. That's just my point.
It's made out to be the whole LGBTQ plus community. I think that's the problem, is it's in the effort to protect trans people and non-gender conforming people, for some minority of our side, it's become like a thing that we should try to normalize for everybody.
And for kids. Since everybody wants to protect it, and for kids, this type of rhetoric is also very, very destructive and very, very harmful for kids, right? Because when we are talking about how people are influential and how kids soak up stuff, right? Kids listening to this is just saying, oh, well, if I won't be trans because nobody's telling me that that I'm not this, but later down the road is having these type of, not even later down the road, because again, this is something that is 9 times out of 10 already starting at the child's age, at the pre-adolescent age, right? And so even then, questions will be starting to form, and they might not know how to even interact with individuals that are having this type of language, right? Because a lot of the time, trans people aren't being influenced to be trans. No one's telling us, hey, you should go put on makeup. Hey, you should go put on baseball, whatever the stereotypical gender identification is within clothing. Like, I just don't understand why people would think that something so deep, right, as someone's identity is so surface level when it comes down to just clothing and how they may represent how they may represent physically, right? And then put that as to why a lot of us in the community are the way that we are, because that is solely your experience, when a grand mass majority of us are telling you, hey, a lot of us don't have that. A lot of us have never experienced that. We've never even ran across information of transness, but this is how I've always felt. This is how my brain, my feelings, my heart, my spirit has always pulled me to, has always led me to. And you can't justify that with God, because guess what? God has no gender. No matter how much you put a he on them, God is technically non-binary. Because how can you look like God yet you're a female? But Jesus was male, right? He was a man, son of God, right? This is what I'm saying. Y'all have to look at things a little bit deeper than what the surface of it all. You read that book back and forth, but have realized that book has taught you nothing. You are nothing but that book. You are not even a person anymore. You are trying to take on the identity of Jesus, a character, when you can't embody that. You can't take on the form of Jesus. Jesus was holy. But by his standards, we are him, right? Let's finish this up.
And it's just not the norm or right for everybody.
I guess to sum it up, I was really sick and tired of being tormented by my desires.
Well, now that you said that, I do want to know how that switch happened, because you said you're married now, so you kind of completely...
Yes, I've always been interested in the meaning of life.
That's a dynamic change right there.
And I kind of see my homosexual journey as me learning how to love myself physically, because I didn't know what all came with me. I never really cared about what I liked. I never thought I was worth at that time, but I was so interested in what other women wanted and what they liked. And I remember this point at the end of my homosexual lifestyle. I started to see how predatory I was, because I would have to hunt women, see if they're gay, see if they would get down, see if I could turn her out, something. Or I would also see how eager I was to take care of her, and how I would want to do things for her and pick her up and drive and all this stuff and provide and stuff. And then I started to realize, oh, this is what I want for me. Just one day it just kind of opened. And I don't know, I just started realizing that, because I've always been about truth, but sometimes you have to fall into things to learn. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way, as my father would say. And so I remember asking this question. I just came before God, and I hadn't talked to God in years, and I was like, why is this harmful? Why is being gay harmful? It's not harmful. Why? And I think the word that stuck with me is what are you doing it for? What?
Hold on. Wait a goddamn minute. Why is it harmful? It's not harmful. You're the predator. What the fuck? It's the desires, because this is what it's called lust, babe. That's what's harmful. You don't have self-discipline. It's not the act of homosexuality that is harmful. It's the lack of sexual discipline. It's the lack of self-discipline that you motherfuckers just fail to have. Right? You just said you had to pressure women. You were going after women. You were doing all these things for women in a sense of validation. Anybody with sense, and if you're looking at the video, you can see the girls' faces on the other side like, that doesn't sound like a homosexual problem. That sounds like a you problem. You need help. You need therapy. And the fact that you had a man, you thought that a man coming in to save you, come play Superman, right? To come save you from your desires because you have yet to have any self-control, and then had the nerve to use God and ask God, why is this harmful? It's not harmful. What are you doing it for?
What's your life gonna look like when you're 50? You know, like, it's like you're committing suicide to the human race.
What? God doesn't give a fuck about that. Let's be fucking for real. He doesn't give a fuck about that. He doesn't. Because if it was up to him, he'll wipe us out and then create us all again. What are you talking about? You're doing an injustice to the human race. You think your body matters? You think your one insignificant child that may or may not come to existence matters to the human race? Let's be fucking for real. It just sounds like you're coming up with an excuse because you did not fit in. You wanted to conform, which is okay to say that too. I wanted to feel normal. Say that. I wanted to feel normal. I wanted to have a family, which you can still do as an LGBT member. I don't understand why this having a family rhetoric is like the end all be all for motherfuckers when every family can be, every person can have a family. Every type of person can have a family. There are trans adults. There are trans parents, meaning there are trans women and trans men who are parents to children. Healthy, thriving, smart children. You can look this up on the internet. I know a few. So it's like, listening to this is just self-hate at its finest and trying to use God to justify that self-hate.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not continuing your lineage. You're not thinking about something that's bigger
your
than
your lineage.
Like, you have to have children. You gotta live up to that. That's what.
What does children have to do with your sexual orientation?
This whole plan is about. So, I was like, well, I don't know how to let this go. I don't know how to let this go, and I don't want to ever come out. I think that was the hardest thing, is like having to.
Oh, so you were trapped in your own fucking brain. You don't want to have to come out. You didn't have to. You technically don't have to come out. People just see you with who you with, and that's it. That's all. This, like, I don't know what the issue is. Why if people have this mindset of, oh, well, we don't have to, our relationships are so private, people don't have to know every little thing. If they see me, if people are so confident about themselves, just be confident all the way around. Why are you worried about what society may think because of who you may lay with your partner? Be fucking for real here. Grow up. Grow up. Grow up. Because if we was to be judging about who people is laying with, a lot of your baby daddies, a lot of your moms, a lot of your dads will be crucified for the pitiful choices that they've made and the lackluster parenthood that they've given and shown and displayed. If we're gonna talk about it, we want lineages here. What lineages that are being made? If that was the case, we would have more progressive, productive families in the black community. But this is also a white passing woman, so she has to have a level of class and a level of privilege to even get certain things, because they still sit in that patriarchy, right? They still sit in that space of technically men run the household. So guess what? In order for me to have a successful, stable home and life, I have to abide and obtain me a man. I don't see that within LGBT. I can't do that. I'm not strong enough within myself to even perpetuate that type of energy. So yeah, I of course I'm going to use God as the reasoning to why I wasn't strong enough to present or to live the way that I really wanted to live, because your desire seemed to be so strong you couldn't let it go, babes, until you got this one man that most likely lets you satisfy those desires with him.
To come out and like deal with people on that side telling me that, oh no, you're not. Or people on this side, like, so I was like, you know what, fuck that. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm straight. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm gay. I'm never going to answer that question. Ever. And I'll never will. And I just kept to myself, and I kept seeking, and I was just like, okay, how do I become a woman that's worthy of being a wife then? Like, I don't have to be with a fucked up husband. I can have a good husband if I want one. Maybe the man that I think is perfect will come for me. And like in 6 months he did.
All right, y'all, that was the wrap of that first part. And like I said, like I figured, so far, I'm interested. And baby girl, she's going to need some therapy, because she said she found that man within 6 months. I'm very happy for her. Blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to hear that for her. I'm blessed. Thank you. Because listen, it sounded like she was going through it. But, alright y'all, I'm going to wrap up this week's episode. Come back for next week for the part 2 of LGBT women versus non-LGBT women. And this is going to be a ongoing thing. I think I like this commentary, watching video kind of thing. Let me know in the video. I like this a lot. It's giving me a little bit more of a oomph and wanting to, have topics and things to talk about. But that was this week's episode, y'all. I really can't wait for the end of this episode for part 2, because I really want to see what the other questions are going to be, right? But I can't also wait to see you guys' interactions. I want to see you guys' like, share, and comment out. I'll catch you next week. See ya.